I think you ought to know about men's radio. The place where men and women really speak. Oh man, what a show. It's men's radio. This crazy show is on 3 times a week. Now Russ and Phil are there to help with all your cares. We laugh, we cry, we talk like grown-ups do. But if you're sad and low, it won't cost you no dough. And radio, that's the place for you. With Russ Kane and Phil Dave.
So good.
Never tire of that. Never.
Really?
Yeah, I know. There's a fabulous lag today. Fantastic lag. That's not a euphemism. It means there's a lag today. So it always sounds like we're talking over each other. We're not really. It's just beautiful day today. Gorgeous day. Sun is shining. And that's lovely. How are you, Phil Dave?
I am okay, I think. Thank you, Russ Kane. How are you?
You have to think.
The truth of the matter is,
what's the problem? What's going on? Tell your uncle.
Well, I tell you what. I tell you what's going on. It's very strange. I woke up this morning, which is quite normal. I do that.
That is a good start.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
And then I started to feel a bit odd. I don't know why. So I'm not sure whether or not I'm coming down with something, or whether or not maybe I'm just a bit pooped because this week has been quite busy for one reason or another. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm hoping I'm not coming down.
On the plus side,
we'll find out.
On the plus side, you haven't been taken off air.
No, well, I haven't been taken off air here.
No, but you haven't been taken off air for crossing the line. We could talk about that for absolutely ages.
Oh, I see. I
felt rough. Yes, you're not yourself. I can tell.
No, I'm very sorry. I will try and keep up. I promise. I'm sorry.
Crazy. No. I've bbeen feeling very. I don't know why. I've been feeling dizzy. I keep changing my reading glasses, see if that helps. And I don't know, man. I think I'm hugely stressed because the rest of this week, this year, this fourth quarter, is nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Oh,
just crazy. Oops. Crazy the rest of this year. Yep. So
now, Russell,
to put it in, yes, yeah.
We have to talk about something.
I feel electric. What's the matter? What are we going to talk about?
You may very well have spoken about this with Longy, but you haven't spoken about it with me.
What is that?
You last week. You kept that quiet.
I did keep it quiet because I think there's nothing worse than boasting about something until you've actually done it, and then I don't like to boast about it. You may continue.
Well, let's just say,
if
I was to fall off this mortal coil, who better than to send you on your way than fully fledged, fully qualified celebrant, Mr. Russ Kane? Superb.
Thank you very much. You're very kind. Yes, I am now a fully qualified celebrant. I've been working on it, oddly enough, this morning, getting my website sort of together, got my new phone number, got my new email address. If you need me as a celebrant, it's Russ Kane Celebrant, all one word, @gmail.com. Simple as that. And that's for weddings. It is for funerals. It is for memorial services. Maybe you're renewing your vows. That's my first booking, oddly enough. My first booking is a wedding.
Put a couple on. We'll make you do bar mitzvahs as well.
Well, I can't. Remember, I can't do religious services, but funerals, I will do from top to toe, all the way through. Obviously, you have to contact your funeral director, etc. for that. Although, if you contact me, I can contact the funeral director who will do the legalities of it. And I was asked, I've been asked loads of times because something like 600 people or something mad reacted when I went on Facebook, which was very sweet. And I'm very grateful. Thank you. And people say, well, what's the difference between a celebrant and a funeral director? Or what's the difference between that and a vicar? It's non-denominational. But I can't marry you. The big mistake is people think, I now pronounce you man and wife. That I can't do. I can do the rest of the service. I can do everything. But what I can't do is, under the eyes of English law, marry you. You can go to a registry office, and that's how it works out. Graham Pack, we've seen that joke about 50,000 times. Anyway, we've got to move on. Thank you for that. We have to move on to things theatrical. Ladies and gentlemen.
We do, but can I ask you something very, very quickly?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
What prompted it? Why did you decide to go down that route? I'm not saying you're not brilliant. You're brilliant at it. I just wonder why.
Well, I wanted to do something that I hoped would bring together whatever meager skills I may have. One as a writer for eulogies and wedding vows and services, and especially for eulogies, which are very difficult to do. And also for public speaking. And also, having co-founded with Penny Horner and Howard Jameson Men's Radio Station, and working with Phil so closely, it made me want to help other people. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's true. At a time of great happiness, or more importantly, at a time of great sadness, where you don't know which way is up, and I've been there far too many times, as those who know me know, I wanted to be able to also give back. So it's something that I feel very strongly about. It's not a joke for me at all. I know people have been very hilarious with their comments, but it's not a joke for me. It's very serious. It was a very, very expensive course, and the most intensive thing I've done in most intensive thing I've done in probably 30 years. So I was thrilled to. I was thrilled to pass.
And he's worked with me.
I have worked. That's extremely kind of you. Another string to your bow. Also, thank you, Sharon. You're absolutely true. Thank you very much. And Claridge is saying, good afternoon, everyone. Congratulations. Oh, thanks, Paul. I appreciate that. And let's dash up to Fife in Scotland. Greetings to you, Dave. Hope you're in good. Now, always happy to see him. Always an interesting 20 minutes, half hour of the show. Please welcome the MRS theatre critic, Mr. Jonathan Bass.
Good afternoon, and very lovely to be with you.
Breaking news, Jonathan. Breaking news coming in from Cyprus. It's Penny Horner. Thank you. Sold to the lady with the red hair in Cyprus. Sold to you, madam. Yes, you, madam, at the back. How lovely to hear from you, Penny. I thought you'd be relaxing, but clearly not. Well, you can relax with us. Have a fabulous time. You deserve it. There we go. What have you seen? What you been up to?
Well, I think before I even get on to what I've seen, I think what's important to acknowledge here is quite what an impact this theatre slot has within the industry. Because it was barely 2 weeks ago when I think it was 2 weeks or possibly 4, I can't remember, when Phil commented that the best show ever, Starlight Express. When's it coming back? And lo and behold, 10
Can
days
I just
ago,
say, I swear I didn't know that was happening. That really was just bizarre coincidence.
No, Phil, I've heard actually that the show is being brought back simply because of your wish.
It's called Phil Dave Express now.
Phil Dave says, I want Starlight Express back. Andrew Lloyd Webber and Michael Harrison, who's an exceptionally good producer, were listening in, and your wish is granted, Phil. And sometime May or June next year at the Troubadour Theatre in Wembley Park, formerly LWT Studios, etc.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yes, it does have to be said. It's a slightly strange choice of venue, but it's
but it's actually, if you think
that's far enough away for me.
If you think about Starlight Express, Russ, it's a one or two stops for you on your empty carriage.
No, it's not. It really isn't. Shush.
But it's a great space for that sort of show, because Starlight Express needs a massive amount of rigging and scaffolding to make all of the roller skating work properly. So I think it's an inspired use of the space, and it'll be great fun to see it back in England. Remember, I mean, Phil, you may not know this, Starlight Express has been playing non-stop in Bochum, Germany since 1988. So there are clearly some Teutonic nations, because we discussed a few weeks ago that The Third Man has been constantly streamed in Vienna in a cinema since forever. And you now know that Starlight Express has been on stage in Bochum since 1988. I've not yet been out there to review it. There you go. There
I must be tired.
Well, quite. And I guess every now and then they probably need to get new roller skates as well. But hey ho. Now let's go on to what I've been seeing, and I've got 4 shows lined up to talk about. First is a show that, whilst I didn't see it with Russ, we have both seen it, which is Frank and Percy, currently playing at the Other Palace in Victoria, just opposite Buckingham Palace. It's a new play by Ben Wetherill, and it's all about 2 men who find each other. They bump into each other while they're walking their dogs on Hampstead Heath, and a romance strikes up between these 2 men in their third age. It's played by Ian McKellen, who was an actor, was 83. Roger Allam, who's considerably younger than 83. Not quite sure how old Roger Allam is. Another equally gifted performer, possibly not as gifted. Ian McKellen is truly fantastic, but the both of them are excellent.
Oh, sorry. I think Roger Allam is right up there. I know McKellen is brilliant, but I think Roger Allam is right up there.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I will stand corrected.
No. It's just an opinion. It's just an opinion. It's not right or wrong.
The performances are lovely. Some of the script is lovely. Some of the script, I have to say, left me a little bored. And some of the script, just a little bit too shallow for my liking, in the way it's skimmed across a number of various issues, which really just seem to be box ticking in a way of saying, look how contemporary, look how switched on this script is. It's a very sensitive portrayal of 2 men's love for each other. And I have to say, on the night that I was there, which was earlier this week, the audience, it's a very popular show. The audience loved it. It's been extended for a couple of weeks, and it's running now until the 17th of December at the Other Palace. And, you know, as I said in my review, Ian McKellen can enchant an audience if he simply reads a telephone directory aloud, because the man's voice is just gorgeous and he can breathe life into anything. And really my conclusion on this is, see it if only to catch that rarest of masterclasses in which McKellen and Roger Allam breathe life into a well-intentioned, but in my opinion, surprisingly flawed text.
Ooh. The great thing about going to see anything with Jonathan, which he is now inviting me as his +1, which is always very charming, is that we have completely different opinions on absolutely everything, nearly absolutely everything. I'll go, I saw something and I loved it. And he goes, oh, I thought it was terrible. And which I think is great, but that's art for you. It's not, you know, you see it through your own perspective and what you get. I went out to ages ago to Windsor for the princely sum, I think it was 5 or something. And it was in pre something or other, and I don't know. It cost me the princely sum of £5 to see it in an afternoon. I took an afternoon off. Come on, oh no, and I absolutely adored it. But just seeing McKellen on stage in a small theatre, and Roger Allam, one of my favourite actors. You have, I think, just fantastic actors, so varied. I loved it, and also I thought it was sensitively done and didn't. I get what you're saying about box ticking, but you know, normally these things I go, oh please, come on, I've been through this. I really liked it, but there you go. It's a very gentle piece. It's a very gentle piece.
Speaking of box ticking, that's the one thing that terrifies me about bringing back Starlight Express. I'm just so worried what they're going to do with it, because to me,
HS2.
But Starlight Express was always a very diverse cast anyway. You know, when I went to go and see it years ago, it was a diverse cast, and I just hope they're not going to sort of tamper with that and say, oh, it wasn't quite diverse enough. Who only knows?
But they're all trains. They're trains.
It's all about trains. But remember now, Phil, you'll be able to have people who say, I identify as a diesel train, or I identify as a steam train. And, you know, all of a sudden you'll find that Starlight Express has reached the 21st century.
Absolutely.
So
Well, I tell you where I think, here's my prediction where I think it's going to change, is that the only thing that I could say that possibly maybe with Starlight Express, some people might say was unequal, was that you'd probably have a look and see that most of the trains were played by men.
I mean, the locomotives.
The locomotives were played by men, and most of the carriages were played by women. And I imagine that's probably going to change.
Well, that'll be interesting. We'll see. We will see.
I'm fascinated that you two love the show. It left me. I saw it once 3,000 years ago, and it left me stone cold. And I can remember nothing about it at all. I just thought it was. I thought it was utterly pointless. I just didn't get it.
Wow.
Then I hated cats. I don't mean the animals, cats. I mean the show, cats. God,
I've heard Ray Shell, now an actor of more senior years, who in his youth played whoever the young steam train is. Rusty. I've heard him in Cabaret sing Starlight Express, and I'm not going to sing it now for you.
Oh, thank God.
I've heard him at the Crazy Cocks singing Starlight Express, and I was just in tears. It was
that bad.
It was just gorgeous.
It is an incredible song, honestly.
Absolutely gorgeous. Andrew Lloyd Webber, and this, of course, with Richard Stilgoe, who wrote the lyrics. Andrew Lloyd Webber really knows how to press the buttons on a melody. And it's very interesting, this alliance that he's building with Michael Harrison, producer, because it's Michael Harrison who's behind the Sunset Boulevard that's now currently in preview at the Savoy Theatre.
Which apparently was jolly good, although I'm a bit surprised because I've seen the posters, because I'm on the tube nearly every day going to meetings and stuff, and I'm a bit surprised that Nicole Scherzinger of Pussycat Dolls is playing Norman Desmond.
Well, look,
she's no, she's not.
It's an interesting one because Nicole Scherzinger is not classically trained in musical theatre. Nope. She does, of course, know how to sing. She is, of course, ridiculously famous. So on the basis that tickets need to be sold and the cast's wages need to be paid, she will get bums on seats in that respect.
Will she, though? But Jonathan, Jonathan, I hear exactly what you're saying. But will she? I mean, I don't know anyone who goes, oh, it's Nicole Scherzinger, I must go and see her in a show. I've seen her in private. I saw her at a private event. We went along years ago. It was a private event, small, and she came on, she blew the house, blew the roof off. I never knew she was that good. I mean, she absolutely, forget all that.
And that's why it's really important to chew your food.
Anyway, hopefully I'll be covering that in 2 weeks' time. But moving swiftly on to south of the river, National Theatre, who have on for a couple more weeks, came back a couple of weeks ago, a play that they first had on a year or so ago called The Father and the Assassin, which is a meticulously well-researched look, but a slightly boring play about a chappie called Nathuram Godse, whose claim to fame, or rather whose claim to infamy, is that he shot Gandhi. And the play, written by a woman called, and I hope I pronounce her name correctly, Anupama Chandrasekhar, is meticulously researched. I found the play a great history lesson, because shamefully, I don't know a great deal about the history of the subcontinent and the complexities of partition, etc., which really turned out to be very, very brutal and very bloody.
Curious why you say that's shameful, but
no, shameful in terms of from an ignorance perspective. It's always good to learn. A big event happened. I didn't know anything about it of any substance. Now, having seen that play, I know a lot more.
I think you'd be forgiven, Jonathan.
Thank you very much. But as I said in my review, 10 out of 10 for, and to be fair, there's a guy who's on stage throughout, who's the chap who plays Godse, whose name is, and please, I hope I pronounce this correctly, Hiran Abeyasekara. He's brilliant. He plays this young guy who is driven to assassinate Gandhi for political and nationalistic motives. His performance is outstanding, but the play, it's a great history lesson, but 10 out of 10 for history doesn't translate to 5-star drama. So
I saw this advert. I get all these emails with it, and I looked at it and I thought, oh, okay, Fiverr, I'll go along. And then I thought, nah, not for me.
Yeah.
Not being rude about that. I just thought you've summed it up. Doesn't translate as a play, and I'm thinking, nah, it's not great. If it's not grabbing me in the synopsis, which is really, you got to flog it in those few lines and get excited. I thought I'm not going to go. So I'm fascinated that you went and then kind of reaffirmed what I suspected.
However,
which was a lucky guess.
Let's move swiftly on to two shows that I've really loved, and I've kind of been at odds. And interestingly, in fact, the first two shows that I've talked about, I've been at odds with the critics as well. But I've really loved these productions, and most of my colleagues colleagues on the various broadsheets and mainstream publications have not liked them immensely. But let's talk positive. Let's say nice things. Pygmalion at the Old Vic with Bertie Carvel as Henry Higgins and Patsy Ferran as Eliza Doolittle. And for those who do not know, Pygmalion is, of course, the play by George Bernard Shaw, around which Lerner and Loewe wrote My Fair Lady. And it's a very, very long time since I've seen Pygmalion, very long time. My Fair Lady only seen last year, with particularly lovely touring production. So it's really gorgeous to come back to the stage play and just see quite how much of it Lerner and Loewe so skillfully translated into the musical. But this show is absolutely lovely. George Bernard Shaw is a genius. He writes his ability to comment on society, on class, on sex, not so much gender, but certainly on sex and the stereotypings and the way in which people were put into boxes or expectations at the time. Play was written in 1913. So much of what he wrote in 1913 is relevant 110 years later. And in this particular cast, with Bertie Carvel and Patsy Ferran, I thought they were exquisite. Their double act had me gripped right from the get-go. I absolutely loved it. I fell for the tenderness between the two. For Bertie Carvel captures Henry Higgins' bumbling inability to deal with the emotions that are slowly growing within him. He's all very much the crusty, instructive teacher, professor. I don't know if you've ever seen Matilda, the stage show, but Bertie Carvel was the original Miss Trunchbull on stage. And there's hints of his Trunchbull that come across in how he deals with Eliza. It is a treat. Alongside those two leads, you've got Michael Gould, who puts in a nice touch as Colonel Pickering. Sylvestra Latouzel is outstanding as Mrs. Higgins, Henry's mum. She is a genius of every woman, spouting common sense with every word she does. And another fine actor in the company, John Marquez, who plays Alfred Doolittle, a man who, as he says, I can't afford morals, Governor. For him, the morality and the virtue signaling of the middle classes is a luxury. John Marquez is fabulous. And,
were you sitting there waiting for were you thinking, now I'm going to sing this bit? And were you waiting for the songs to start?
No. I'll be honest, I wasn't waiting for the songs because there's no musical interludes to bring up.
No, I know that. But
yeah. No, in answer to your question, no. But musically, what's quite nice is they've actually brought in some of the background music has come from the 1938 movie of Pygmalion. And in fact, this script is a fusion of Shaw's original stage play and also Shaw's screenplay, because he wrote the screenplay for the movie. So they've and I'm no scholar on the subject of Pygmalion, so I couldn't tell you where they've cut and pasted from the different versions, but it works gloriously, and it really came out absolutely grinning. A glorious, classy night at the theatre that was not only beautifully written, but beautifully performed.
Bertie Carvel played, if I could remember, he played a detective. I think he played in the reboot of the Dalgleish series. If I've got it wrong, I apologize to everybody. I thought he was fantastic, and that's the only place I know him from. But he was excellent, and I could absolutely see him as Professor Higgins. He's got that face that's just perfect for the role.
He is. It's a gorgeous night at the theatre, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of both script and performance. Final show that I want to speak about is Close Up, which is a brand new musical all about the life of Twiggy. Thank you.
Oh, it got panned. Ooh,
indeed.
Standard went for its throat last night.
It got panned.
God,
okay. I saw it last night. I was there at the second press night rather than the first press night.
Right.
And I deliberately kept myself in purdah from the published reviews yesterday, though I had a little sneak peek at them once I'd penned mine last night before I actually hit publish. I have to say, I sat in that theatre and again, I was thoroughly entertained. Ben Elton, who's written the show
and directed it,
indeed, not so much a musical, as I say, it's more of a playlist. He has taken some banging songs from a couple from the 40s, from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and possibly the 80s. I mean, shamefully in the program, there was no list of the songs that were referenced, which was a real shame, because I do like to see what songs are there, because it helps me when I'm writing my review and talking about it. But if they can't be bothered to list them, I'm not going to reel them off to you right now, aside from one stunning Act One closer of Eleanor Skye, who's the brilliant actress who plays Twiggy, singing Leslie Gore's You Don't Own Me. And that was a powerful number to send us all out reeling for the gin and tonics at half time.
I don't need a powerful number for that. I just need curtain down, pull them off. Boom.
Fine.
Normally halitosis from the person sitting next to me does that.
Always.
So Ben
they're coughing.
Ben Elton has looked at Twiggy's life and he's pulled together a relatively well-observed biopic of her, starting off in Neasden, going all the way through to via Hollywood and ultimately back to her parents in Neasden. There's nothing ridiculously.
I'm going to be absolutely honest. I'm going to put my stool out.
Russ, I lost your sound there. Can you hear me?
At least it wasn't just me. I thought it was my signal.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Okay.
Fine, good, fine. So let me carry on. So
no. The whole thing just dropped. That's life.
Okay, Elton's his written contribution is thin. I'll admit that, but he follows Twiggy's life. The company that he's assembled, the performers that he's assembled, are fabulous. And I found, luckily, his bits of script don't last too long. And the play spins from song to song in a way that left me thoroughly entertained. It's been panned by the critics.
It's a jukebox musical.
It's more than
another one of his.
Jukebox musical is something more that I'd apply to the likes of ABBA or the Temptations or something that's a run through of songs from a band. But you're right. Yes, jukebox in that respect. I use the word playlist because Ben has decided these songs are going to fit the life of Twiggy. Such maybe particular songs were present at the time of certain events in the show happen. Maybe it was number one at the time. Maybe it's a strong song that people in the audience recognize. To be fair, you need to be really at least over 50 to appreciate what the songs are. And I suspect if you've got reviewers coming along in their 30s and 40s, for whom most of the songs will mean absolutely nothing, if they're then dealing with Ben Elton's thin script and songs that mean nothing to them, they're going to be bored. And fair enough, that's their reaction to it. Me, and for those of my...
They weren't bored. The review that I read so far wasn't that they were bored. It was that Twiggy's life and her legacy and what it meant for her to come through the ranks and be an international model, etc. I hope you got some of that.
No,
did you get that?
It was quite.
Or did I disappear?
It was quite patchy. It was, to be honest, Russ, your vocal was probably far less patchy than what you intended it to be. I'm going to actually say,
give your phone a shake, man.
I'm going to say that I really enjoyed its unpretentiousness. And it took a very straightforward approach to Twiggy's life, and how you had the likes of David Frost and Woody Allen, who in television interviews tried to trip her up. And she absolutely plays an incredibly straight back in how she dealt with them and upended their smart-assedness. And I think the way in which she existed before Me Too was a thing, and good Lord, she had to deal with a large amount in her life of toxic and manipulative masculinity. I think Elton does actually recognize that, and recognizes it well. Goes a little bit woke once or twice, but luckily that doesn't go too far up the woke boulevard. And the two guys who play the most influential men in her life, Matt Corner, who is Justin de Villeneuve, who was the young guy who started to exploit Twiggy, took her to fame and exploited her quite ruthlessly. Brilliant. And Darren Day comes along as Michael Whitney, who Twiggy married, had a child with Michael Whitney. Michael Whitney then descended into alcoholism on a really painful journey. And, you know, that's not one of the show's laughing moments by any means. Eleanor Skye, who's playing Twiggy, I think gives a very sensitive portrayal of the challenges of living with an alcoholic and the decisions she had to make. But Darren Day, as this chappie, puts in, you know, his role is brief, as is Matt Corner's, as the other chappie. And they do it with a gorgeous singing strength. So Ben Elton's handed them various big numbers of the time. I think that Darren Day gets involved with Harry Nilsson's Can't Live If Living Is Without You. That's another one that's coming to mind now. Done, I have to say, superbly. There are two other actors in there who are outstanding, who are Hannah Jane Fox and Stephen Serlin, who play Twiggy's parents, Norman and Nell, what was her surname? Lawson. Norman and Nell Lawson. So those two actors are fantastic. Stephen Serlin, in fact, has to pop up playing also David Frost, Woody Allen, and Melvin Bragg at various times through the show. And I would say on this instance, if you're looking for an entertainment, and I suspect tickets will be going for it quite affordably if one knows the economics of the theatre industry. But it's a show, if you sit in it and you're of the right age, you're going to be entertained from start.
So it's a serious question. This is not facetious. Phil, at the grand age of 36.
37, but close enough.
You're kidding me. Jesus.
I know.
How long have I known you?
Oh, too long.
That's crazy. I would think of you like 22 or something.
So do I.
I know you do. Would Phil enjoy it? Because Phil will argue with you. I'm gonna preempt. He will say, "Oh, please stop saying that I'm of a certain age. I won't get it." He said, "I've heard of Henry VIII. I didn't have to live through his times either." And that's Phil's great catchphrase. But would Phil enjoy it going along with his pals?
Okay,
He's got to get some friends first, obviously. I appreciate that.
I've concluded my review that I published by saying it's most likely to appeal to Twiggy and Ben Elton's age groups. Elton is 64, Twiggy is 70-something. I'll be absolutely honest. If those songs mean something to you, you're going to enjoy it. If they
the
don't,
songs you mentioned mean something to me, so I'd be interested.
There you go.
Okay,
you see, that kind of disproves the theory, doesn't it?
It's not rocket science of musical theatre. As I say, I think it's a bit ambitious calling it a musical by Ben Elton. It is more of a playlist by Ben Elton.
Well, what they're doing is, of course, just playing on the fact that he wrote "We Will Rock You," which Wild Horses would not get me to go and see because I adore Queen and I don't want to see it trashed. And they're just saying, "Oh, it's another Ben Elton musical." Well, it's not, is it really? But,
well, quite. And he didn't write the music for that one either.
Of course he didn't.
Clearly,
you know, Queen wrote the music for.
But Jonathan, it's been a pleasure. But we have our lovely Chantal Rickards waiting in the wings, and I feel like
time is a marching, fella.
a bit like a GP surgery. We only have limited time with you. I'm so sorry about
We
that.
really do. Look, Jonathan, if it hasn't cleared up in a week, come get an appointment with our receptionist and come and see our. Come back. And
Lovely. It's been a pleasure.
Always
Absolutely.
a pleasure. Take care. Bye.
Thank
And
you so
thank
much.
you. Bye. No time
there
to
you go.
chit chat. You know her.
No.
You love her. She's back from China, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my goodness
There
me.
she is.
Hello,
There
I'm
she
here. I'm back with a cold.
Oh no.
Oh, hang on. Is it COVID from?
No, it's not COVID. It's just it's a very boring cold. Very boring cold. So I'm not being alarmist about this at all.
Are you sure?
Chantal, I feel like we should sort of say ni hao.
Ni hao. Very good. Thank you. It was
number 32, and I'd listen. Here's the thing. I'm sorry you've got a cold. So you flew back with a cold. So everybody on the plane's now got a cold. Excellent.
No. I picked up a cold on the plane, I reckon.
Of course you did. You're stuck in a little aluminium tube or whatever it is for God knows how many. Before we get on to everything, I've never been to China.
Well,
how was?
Did you fly British Bloxia Airways?
No, I didn't. I didn't fly British Airways. I flew China Eastern, just like you know any other airline, to be honest.
Oh,
and it was an extraordinary experience. I've never been before. I've never been to the Far East before. I've never been to Asia before. So everything was just different.
Honestly, one of the most favorite holidays I ever went on was when I went to Japan, and it was exactly 10 years ago next month. And I'm so sad it's been that long. I would love to go back. It's an amazing part of the world.
It's quite extraordinary. What I hadn't realized, and I, very naively, my view of China was that they were all still on bicycles wearing coolie hats and planting rice in fields of water. I was so wrong. It is so modern. It is so impressive. The buildings are
they've taken over the world.
It's astonishing, is all I can say. It is, and full of incredibly nice people. I mean, there was nobody I felt, there's a real respect there. I mean, clearly I was a foreigner coming in to do a piece of work. And so I was probably treated with a certain amount of respect because of who I was. But I didn't feel that any of that was sort of jaundiced in any way. The young people were fabulous. I just wanted to bring all these gorgeous little kids home with me that I kept seeing. And the event itself was
really I hear that Helen George is giving up her role in The King and I before long. So maybe, who knows, there may be scope.
No. Well, the event that I went to was something called it was the first ever Golden Panda Awards. So Russia have got the Golden Bear, America's got the Golden Globes and Oscars, but this was astonishing. It was their very first one. They've been running the TV festival in Sichuan for 30 years, I think, but this was the first time they put a big award show into it, and I went as a judge, along with other fellow international judges. And it was astonishingly well put together, just as a production. There must have been probably 200 performers on the stage for the final number.
So what was worthy, in your opinion, of a panda?
Well, all sorts of things, actually. I mean, All Creatures Great and Small won an award for cinematography. Or was it music? Isn't that terrible? I can't remember if it was music or
animals. Or Carol Drinkwater, one of the two.
Yes. No, the new one that we've talked about.
I know, I'm just being silly.
But very, very good film that won.
Did Christopher Timothy come on stage with his hand up a
No,
panda?
Christopher Timothy. No, but Jackie Chan was there.
Shut up! No. Jackie Chan.
Yeah, so that was good, but I didn't get to talk to him. I know him a little bit from Hollywood, but I didn't. I mean, he was just swamped by so many people that I didn't really get a chance to go over and say hello, which is a bit of a pity. But we had sort of liveried minibuses taking us round the city, and we had our own lane on the highway, which I'm going to definitely try and introduce in Wandsworth.
Bring that in Wandsworth.
Police closing all the intersections for us as we went, and we just sort of whizzed from one side of the city to the other side of the city.
Wow.
It was astonishing. It was absolutely astonishing.
For you. Let me ask you a question. I got to ask you that it's a serious question. We, of course, are, as with always, it's a serious question. Capitalism versus communism. We were brought up fearing the Russians. They're all going to kill us. We're kind of coming true again. But and when you meet Russians of my age, they said we were terrified of the West. We thought you were going to annihilate us. That's the way we were brought up. Now we're being told and we're fed. China, the most evil people in the history of the planet. And you go there, they're lovely.
I felt safe. All the signs in Shanghai are in English as well. So if you go on the tube, you can read everything because it's in English and in Mandarin. The airport is just extraordinary. On the final day, I flew out of Shanghai, but I went on the Maglev, which is this high-speed train. And I actually took a video of the speed because they had the speedo for everybody to see in the train. And it went at 300 kilometers an hour. So it was like going from High Street Ken to Heathrow in 6 minutes. I mean, everything just blew my mind. Lots of the high streets were full of.
Are you familiar with what the
Well, it just felt like Oxford Street. There was Uniqlo and Zara and Hermes and just every brand, every Western brand was there. It is a very commercial place. And I was, surprised to see that. I thought it was going to be drab and dark, and it wasn't any of those things at all. And
fascinating what you say though about the airport, because one of the most extraordinary airports I've ever been to, and it was literally, no pun intended, a flying visit.
I'm so sorry. Very bad connection today. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry, Russell, it doesn't show.
Yeah, that's the main thing. I'm going to remove myself so you two.
Well, that's a turn up for the books after 70 years. Good Lord, who saw that? Anyway, right. No,
I'll hear you.
Anyway, I was trying to say that one of the most fascinating airports I've been to, one of the most, I think actually the word is stunning, right? It's literally because of the architecture, the technology within it, and just the shops and everything was extraordinary, was in Doha.
Oh, really? I haven't been to Doha.
Absolutely mind-blowing airport.
Yeah.
It puts Heathrow Terminal 5 well and truly in the shade, let me tell you.
Yeah, well, Chengdu Airport was similar because that was the other city I went to. That was where the awards were held. And the airport was clean and tidy and, and everybody now has got a translating system. So even when you go up to the information desks, they immediately record what you're saying. And then they
can offer the translation. Oh, amazing.
They record their answer straight back to you and it comes out in English.
The only thing that worries me with stuff like that, though, Chantal, I don't know whether or not you agree with this, is that however impressive translation technology is, and it is really impressive, it just, in my mind, is going to shatter multilingualism. So in other words, I would actually sort of suggest that there will be a time, a bit like the way that people's handwriting has gone to pot, is because it's hardly necessary to write anymore. But I just think people's linguistic skills are going to go as well. People will not actually bother learning other languages.
Well, I hope they do. I mean, I felt out of my depth. I speak French. I did French at university, and I am a linguist, and I love foreign languages. And I felt very out of my depth, not even understanding the script. I mean, that was the thing that was most frightening to me. Mm-hmm. But actually, I learned a little bit of Chinese before I went, so I could say, hello and goodbye and thank you and welcome and all of those good things. But people have to converse one way or another. So we got round it. And I had a lovely translator who was literally on my shoulder all week. So that was perfect.
Literally, good Lord.
Blimey, right.
Well,
you had a good time. No wonder you didn't want to come home.
No, it was terrific, and I spent quite a lot of time doing film and television and TV interviews and radio interviews, and I think being blue-eyed and blonde out there is quite a novelty. So lots of people
kept love that. Oh, they love
it. Novelty in Wandsworth.
But no, it was very odd signing autographs and I kept saying, I'm not famous. I'm not one of the famous people. But anyway,
it was get that hilarious. In Tesco's.
I was super impressed, is all I can say.
I saw a signed box of fortune cookies of yours come up on eBay.
I think fortune cookies are not a Chinese invention, by the way. I've got a feeling
No.
that
Out of
fortune
New York
cookies,
or San Francisco,
Yeah.
one of the two.
I think so.
Did you
No,
feel,
to us they're just crackers.
this is a serious question. Did you feel at any time that the people felt controlled? I mean, I spent a little time in East Germany and it was horrendous. That was under communist East Germany. It was grim as hell.
I had quite open and honest conversations with everybody, and actually there's a real positivity about the place. I didn't feel that they felt oppressed, and certainly nobody suggested that in any way, shape or form. But I mean, clearly we were all there talking about film and television and collaboration inside the creative community, so we were all there to make friends and to make connections and to try and help the world get closer through creativity. So we were all definitely talking the talk in a very sort of modern and progressive way.
Well, that's great. I think that's fabulous. I mean, I'm laughing because you thought they wore sort of big coolie hats and padded around in rice fields. If you've seen, I'm a complete petrol head. If you see the new cars that will obliterate our industry here, because the new Chinese cars are fantastic. I mean, absolutely drop dead brilliant. And they come with the highest end tech. They look great. They are great. And they're a tremendous price. So I was laughing at you think, oh, I know. Here's the new electric car. It's a rickshaw. No, it's not really. Really?
No, they've got loads of bikes, but they're Boris bikes, or they're on scooters, which are electric scooters. And you're right, all the taxis are the Chinese equivalent of the Teslas. So they've all got the sort of the big computer screen at the front to navigate with. And I mean, amazing. So my bad for not really knowing how progressive it was.
Well, they wouldn't know.
Yeah, there's only one thing one can say to that for you not knowing that, Chantal.
God, here we go.
Which is what?
I said tut tut.
Oh, I got that. That's very good.
There we go. You're welcome.
Boom.
By
the way, Phil, I love the way you've done the background. I can't take any credit for it because I don't know how to do these things. It looks great. Thank you. Popcorn and theatre tickets and cinema tickets. Lovely.
Very good.
Yes. Well, I thought it was about time we jazzed it up a bit. You see, we make such a fuss of these features.
For heaven's sake, we're lucky to have her. Lucky to have her. That's what I say.
Well, quite.
So on your flight back, did you see anything?
Chantal's less lucky, to be honest, but we're lucky.
Oh, yeah, she's completely less lucky to be stuck with us. Jesus.
Wow.
Well,
the expression "rose between thorns" was appropriate.
Thorns, I know. Yes, and we know what thorns do.
You know that I am always very happy to share Friday morning with you because it's fun for me too.
You're very kind, but you should get out more. So on the flight back, was there anything good to watch?
Very briefly, I am going to Margate this afternoon. I'm just going to give a big shout out to my friend Arnold Schwartzman, who is a friend.
I wonder where you're going to go for a second.
I'm going to Margate.
I was so overexcited. No, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I thought it's going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. She's meeting Arnold Schwarzenegger in Margate. My life is complete.
No, he used to be the chairman of BAFTA in Los Angeles. He's one of the only Brits who's got an Oscar. I mean, there aren't that many Brits who've got Oscars, but he is one of them. He is a living legend, and he is being made a freeman of the either city or town of Margate this afternoon. So I'm going to go and watch him be robed. Anyway, so shout out to Arnold.
Do they put a stick of rock on either shoulder and go, "Arise, Arnold"?
I don't know, but I'll buy you some rock when I'm there.
Will you be wearing a Kiss Me Quick hat?
No, well, I'm not sure, but I'll definitely be heading for fish and chips.
Thing. And then he'll stand up and go, "I'm looking for Sarah Connor. Come with me if you want to live. Head for the chopper in Margate." There we go.
Anyway, so yes, I did watch a lot of telly on the way back. I had loaded up my iPad with a ton of things because I was pretty much out of the sort of UK zone. I wasn't getting much news. I wasn't getting many emails, but I didn't have time to read the news or watch telly or do emails or any of that stuff. So sort of came back to a crazy week. You've had a Russell Brand week. You've had Murdoch stepping down. You've had Lawrence Fox throwing his toys out of the pram. I mean, crazy time.
Dan Wootton getting suspended.
But that aside,
Moving on.
so I was very happy to get back to London and be able to go straight onto the BBC iPlayer and catch up on some new programs that have come out in the last couple of weeks.
Machine's turn to say, "Oh, I don't like you anymore." Sorry about that.
No, well, the thing I watched last night, which I think is really worth watching, and it's the latest story of somebody who made billions out of a business and then suddenly lost everything overnight. And this is a 31-year-old American guy who set up a crypto business and became
Daniel somebody.
He is called, let me think what his name is. Hang on, I've forgotten it. Sam Bankman-Fried.
Daniel
Sam Bankman-Fried, and he set up a cryptocurrency called FTX.
That's it.
Technology is not on our side today, is it? Really?
No, it's not.
It's unbelievable. What's going on? I don't know why it's so
Russ,
bad.
for heaven's sakes, don't conduct one of your
idea.
wedding ceremonies over
Weird.
Zoom ever.
Just
No. I'd say right about that.
I
say
always do all my wedding and funerals in person. I will do all of those in person. Nothing. The Zoom works perfectly. I don't know. It's just StreamYard. With Zoom.
I was just
I'm
streaming.
on
Oh,
Zoom all
sorry.
the time. It works great. Not a problem. It's a StreamYard problem. Yes. What is his name? Sam Bankman-Fried was his name. He set up a company called FTX. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a panorama special about how this guy went from hero to zero overnight and lost nearly all his fortune in less than 10 days, because when the crash came, it was an absolute
I laugh out of nerves because seriously, I don't actually know how someone comes back from that. That must be absolutely
no. You do know he's
devastating
going to
beyond devastating.
Phil, he doesn't have to worry. He's going to jail for approximately, not joking, 300 years.
Well, next week is the court case, which is why you should watch the documentary now. It's really worth watching.
I'm not condoning his behavior. What I'm saying is I don't know how someone goes from, as you say, from hero to zero overnight like that, and what that must do to one's mind, no matter how wrong it is, no matter what he's done. I'm saying I don't know how anyone is built to cope with that kind of what can only be described as loss. You know, we're not talking about financial loss, but it's a loss of your lifestyle. It's a loss of everything that you're used to, just gone like that.
Yeah. I mean, it must be tough. He's slightly nerdy. So he would have been somebody who probably at school and university wasn't really making a ton of friends.
Do you think he's on the spectrum? And I don't say it lightly. Do you think he's probably on the spectrum?
I think he's on what I call the respectrum somewhere, possibly.
Yeah.
But he wanted to give all his money away. So he started out in a really good place going, I'm going to make billions and I am going to give it all to different charities around the world. And it was a really, the starting place was great. That's clearly not where it ended up. But it's an extraordinary story. All of this, the whole thing only started in something like 2019. And here we are in 2023. And the court case is next week. And we're going to see what happens. But it's a very well put together documentary, both from the point of view of people who invested, but also the other people around him, some of whom who clearly knew that he was misappropriating the money in the FTX fund and putting it into his own investment fund and then playing with it. Yeah. It's a great story. Yeah. So it's panorama.
Interestingly, Chantal, I was having a meeting this week and we were discussing this. It came up. Had it not gone horribly, horribly wrong, and the guy I was having a meeting with is like one of the most intelligent people I know. What he's doing with me, God knows. But had it not gone horribly wrong, this would have been the new sort of matrix. Instead of having your currency based on gold, which of course is nonsense because there's not enough gold to support the currency. We all know that. So it's all built on fantasy. This would have been the new basis. But it went wrong. And so, of course, it's been discredited, which suits the people who want to keep it on gold.
Indeed. Well, they call crypto digital gold. But, I mean, gold is only valuable because we've decided it is valuable.
Yeah, otherwise it's just a metal.
Because we've just polished a rock and we think it's special and we've attached a value to it. So, but clearly in the digital world, everything is very different. So I think people are super nervous about crypto at the moment. I know nothing about it, basically. But I would still rather have a pound note in my hand. Not that the pound notes exist anymore.
I was going to say, you must be quite short-changed at the moment if you'd rather have a pound note.
Yeah, have a pound note. Here's a 10 bob note for your trouble. Oh, thank you.
And in fact, just going back to China, even a bank card is old-fashioned in China. So nobody uses a bank card. I mean, you can go to an ATM if you want cash, but cash is old-fashioned. Everything is done on a QR code. So you have a QR code on your phone. The vendor has a QR code on their phone, and your phones speak to each other, and it's all done like that.
Wow.
Fascinating.
It's all great.
Well, of course, it would make sense because you know what QR stands for?
Actually, I don't know what QR stands
I have
for.
no idea.
QR is quick response.
Is it?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Okay. Well, there we are.
But the one downside with that serious point, as our dear friend Trudeau showed in Canada, is that when you want to switch off the currency, you just turn it off like a light bulb. If you haven't got cash, they can shut all your banking and all your transactions like that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat. That's the problem with it. It's true, though. It's true.
Yeah.
That's why people are resisting, let's get rid of cash and let's do everything digital, because it is subject, as everything is, but it is subject to government interference, of course.
Of all views.
Of all, of absolutely, of every hue. You know, you just decide you don't like that particular thing. Trudeau didn't like the truckers in Canada, and he stopped PayPal and he stopped their accounts, and they couldn't eat. They couldn't buy anything because they didn't have cash. Anyway, there we are. That's all I'm going to say.
Anyway,
Graham Pack is saying this. The plus side about Sam Bankman-Fried, the plus side, at least he'll have plenty of time to watch Chantal's wonderful recommendations. He's banked up for 300 years.
Let's hope he can watch Panorama in his jail cell in Florida or the Bahamas or New York.
And he goes,
yeah, very good point.
And he'll go, oh, I'm looking quite good in this shot.
Well, actually, I'm going from one criminal to another.
That would be me.
Yes. So one criminal to another, because there is also a very interesting 3-part documentary on Prime, Amazon Prime this week, if you've got Amazon Prime, which is about the fake sheikh, or it's called the fake sheikh, but we all know the fake sheikh is a journalist called Mazer Mahmoud, who used to work for the News of the World. And I didn't really know much about him. Clearly, I vaguely knew who he was, and I knew he'd got loads of scams going over the years and made lots and lots and lots of headlines for the News of the World, who clearly put up with his antics and allowed him to create these fantastic scams that drew people in. Clearly, he was an agent provocateur, so he wasn't just out there, finding people who were behaving badly. He was creating situations in which they behaved badly. So, there is part of one that you think, actually, you really overstepped the mark. You weren't just an observer as a reporter, you were an activist. And clearly that's not what you're supposed to do if you're a journalist. But it's a very good series. It's 3 parts. You need to watch all 3 because threads from the first part end up in the 3rd part. And it makes more sense when you see all 3. But I mean, the News of the World were paying enormous amounts of money to set up these really elaborate scams in the Middle East and, getting hotel rooms and paying $20,000 a day to hire a yacht. And I mean, it was definitely entrapment. Anyway, for those that don't know that story, it's worth watching. And there is retribution at the end of it. And we all like a story with retribution.
Good. It's dirty journalism. It really is. It's filthy and dirty. And you've used the words entrapment. And he clearly was an agent provocateur rather than just watching at the sidelines going, oh, well, they came in and wanted a bribe. No, you were offering it, basically. Horrible, horrible stuff. Yeah. Chantal, so glad
thank
you're
you.
back.
Not at all. Lovely to be back.
I leave you with a passing note. If you ever are stuck, want to give a revered Saudi man a gift, give him a Hoover, because then you can do the shake and vac.
Oh, God. How long have you been working on that?
Thank you so much, Chantal.
Bye.
I'm
Bye.
so embarrassed. I can't
Bye-bye.
look. I'm so embarrassed.
It's all good. You'll be pleased to hear you don't have to tolerate me any longer because we're flat out of time. You're back on Monday with Longy, and I'll see you next Friday.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Stay out of trouble. Bye now.